Captain Amara Wilson stood at the observation deck of Titan Station, her dark eyes fixed on Saturn's rings shimmering in the distance. After 15 years of deep space monitoring, she thought she'd seen everything the cosmos could throw at her. She was wrong. "Captain, you need to see this." Dr. Vikram Malhotra's voice crackled through her comm unit. The quantum physicist rarely showed emotion, but there was an edge to his voice that made her stomach tighten. In the monitoring lab, holographic displays showed something impossible: perfect geometric patterns emerging from the void near Enceladus. The structures weren't ships in any conventional sense, they were crystalline formations that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're unlike anything we've encountered," Vikram explained, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "The quantum signatures suggest they're not just traveling through space, they're manipulating the fabric of reality itself." Before Amara could respond, Lieutenant Olivia Torres burst into the lab. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's not coming through our communications array. It's broadcasting directly into our minds." The message came not in words but in crystal-clear concepts that burned themselves into their consciousness: harvest, purify, perfect. Along with these concepts came images: entire civilizations reduced to pure energy, their consciousness extracted and stored in vast crystalline matrices. Their collectors, Dr. Isabella Hayes, the station's xenobiologist, whispered. They harvest consciousness itself, stripping away what they consider imperfections. She grabbed her head suddenly, wincing. "They're scanning us now." The crystalline entity's scan swept through the station like an Arctic wind, touching each mind it encountered. But something unexpected happened. Where it touched human consciousness, the scan fractured, its perfect patterns disrupted by the chaos of human thought. Anomaly detected. Consciousness pattern irregular. Resistance detected. Purification protocol initiated. The message branded itself into their minds as the crystalline ships began to move. But instead of attacking, they vanished, leaving behind only quantum echoes and a warning that chilled Amara to her core: they would return with a force capable of harvesting even humanity's chaotic minds. "Send everything to Earth Command," Amara ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. "And get me Admiral Takashi. He needs to know, this isn't just first contact. This is first warning." Over the next 3 months, humanity learned they weren't alone in facing this threat. As they decoded the quantum residue left behind by the crystals, they discovered echoes of other civilizations, hundreds of them, all harvested, their consciousness stripped away and perfected by the entities they now called the Crystalline Collective. But they also found hope. In each harvest record, there were gaps, anomalies where consciousness patterns similar to humanity's had caused disruptions in the collective's perfect systems. These civilizations hadn't survived, but they'd proven that the harvesters weren't invincible. Admiral Ryota Takashi stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the crystalline ships. "They see our consciousness as flawed, our thoughts too chaotic for their perfect order. But that chaos, that beautiful imperfection that makes us human, it's also our weapon." Dr. Malhotra's research had shown that human consciousness existed in a state of quantum uncertainty that the crystalline collective couldn't properly process. When they tried to harvest human minds, the very chaos they sought to purify corrupted their perfect systems. "We have 6 months, Amara reported to the council, standing beside the admiral. Their harvest fleets move between galaxies in predictable patterns. When they return, they'll come with technology adapted to contain and purify even our chaotic minds." The council chamber erupted in debate, but Admiral Takashi raised his hand for silence. "We don't need 6 months to hide or run. We need 6 months to build something they've never encountered, a weapon that turns their greatest weakness against them." In a classified facility beneath the Himalayas, Project Defiance was born. Its goal: to create a ship that could weaponize the very chaos of human consciousness that the crystalline collective found so disturbing. But as the project's lead engineers would soon discover, channeling the power of human consciousness would require a price none of them had expected to pay. The quantum readings from the crystalline ships had given them a blueprint, not for copying their technology, but for disrupting it. If the collective sought perfect order, humanity would show them the true power of chaos. As Amara looked over the initial designs for humanity's new weapon, she felt a mix of hope and dread. They were about to turn human consciousness itself into a weapon, and no one could predict what that would mean for the volunteers who would crew the first ship. The real question wasn't whether they could build such a weapon, it was whether anyone could survive using it. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, Project Defiance took shape in a facility carved from solid rock. Dr. Kaito Nakamura stood before the massive quantum forge, watching as artificially grown crystals merged with advanced neural interfaces. Unlike the perfect structures of the collective, these crystals were deliberately flawed, designed to channel and amplify the chaotic patterns of human consciousness. The neural interface testing is ready, Dr. Rei Tanaka announced, her hands steady as she calibrated the testing chamber. As the project's lead neurologist, she'd spent months studying how human minds might survive direct quantum manipulation. Though I still have concerns about the long-term effects. The test subject, Lieutenant James Morrison, lay in the chamber, his body connected to a prototype of the neural interface system. As the quantum field activated, his consciousness expanded into the crystalline matrix. The monitors exploded with activity, quantum patterns spiraling in beautiful, unpredictable ways. Remarkable, Kaito breathed, watching the data stream across his screens. The chaos patterns are even stronger than we predicted. How do you feel, Lieutenant? Morrison's voice came through strained but clear, like my mind is everywhere and nowhere at once. I can feel the quantum field, it's beautiful. The test lasted only 5 minutes, but it proved their theory. Human consciousness, when properly channeled, could generate quantum disruption fields that would be toxic to the collective's perfect systems. But there was a cost. His neural patterns show signs of strain, Ray reported later in the project briefing. Extended exposure to the quantum field could cause permanent changes to consciousness structure. We don't know if these changes would be devastating or evolutionary. Admiral Takeshi, who had been silently observing the test, finally spoke. How many minds would we need to generate a field strong enough to affect a collective ship? Kaito consulted his data. Based on our simulations, 7 minds working in concert, each contributing their own unique chaos pattern. But Admiral, we're talking about volunteers essentially offering up their consciousness as a weapon. The risks are less than the risk of having our entire species harvested, Admiral Takeshi finished. Begin the search. We need 7 volunteers who can handle having their minds turned into quantum weapons. The project entered its next phase, construction of humanity's first consciousness-powered warship, the HMS Icarus. Unlike conventional vessels, the Icarus was built around a central quantum core, with 7 neural interface chambers arranged in a heptagonal pattern. Each chamber would connect one crew member's consciousness directly to the ship's systems, their combined mental chaos generating disruption fields that could tear apart the collective's perfect crystalline structures. Dr. Tanaka worked tirelessly to improve the neural interfaces, trying to minimize the damage to the crew's minds. But early tests showed that the process of weaponizing consciousness was inherently transformative. Those who connected to the quantum field came back changed. Some reported seeing reality in new ways, perceiving quantum probabilities as clearly as physical objects. Others developed an almost precognitive awareness of quantum fluctuations. A few experienced more disturbing changes, memories becoming fluid, personalities shifting like quantum states. We're not just building a weapon, Ray confided to Kaito one night, as they watched the Icarus near completion. We're forcing human consciousness to evolve at an accelerated rate. The crew we choose, they won't be the same people after this. The selection process for the Icarus crew proved daunting. They needed individuals whose minds could handle quantum expansion without fragmenting, but who also possessed the unique mental patterns that would generate the strongest disruption fields. Commander Arya Patel, a quantum physics prodigy with a background in meditation, became their first candidate. Her mind showed an unusual ability to remain coherent even when stretched across quantum states. Next came twin pilots Jason and Emma Rodriguez, whose shared childhood experiences had created naturally synchronized brain patterns that, when combined, produced extraordinarily complex chaos fields. Dr. Marcus Wong, a theoretical physicist who had survived direct mental contact with the collective during their first appearance, brought valuable insight into their enemy's consciousness structure. Lieutenant Nadia Volkov, whose brain injury from a previous space accident had rewired her neural pathways in ways that generated uniquely disruptive quantum patterns, joined despite medical concerns. The final 2 spots went to Captain Thomas Chen, a veteran of 3 deep space campaigns whose strategic mind could process multiple quantum possibilities simultaneously, and Dr. Luna Blackwood, a consciousness researcher whose understanding of human awareness would prove crucial in weaponizing it. As the 7 gathered for their first group neural sync, the weight of humanity's fate settled on their shoulders. They would either become the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created, or the first casualties in a war that would redefine the very nature of consciousness itself. The Icarus waited in its quantum dock, its neural interface chambers ready to transform 7 human minds into something the collective had never encountered, a chaos they couldn't predict, contain, or perfect. 3 months remained until the collective's return. 3 months to master technology that violated the natural laws of consciousness. 3 months to prepare for a battle that would determine whether humanity retained the right to remain beautifully, perfectly imperfect. The neural synchronization chamber hummed with quantum energy as the 7 crew members of the Icarus experienced their first group mind meld. Commander Arya Patel sat in the primary synchronization pod, her consciousness expanding to touch the others' minds. Remember, Dr. Tanaka's voice came through their neural links, don't fight the quantum flow. Let your consciousness expand naturally. The collective's weakness is their need for perfect order, your strength lies in embracing chaos. The first contact between their minds was overwhelming. 7 distinct consciousness patterns crashed together like waves in a storm. Captain Thomas Chen's strategic thoughts collided with Dr. Luna Blackwood's abstract theories. The Rodriguez twins' synchronized patterns created swirling eddies of quantum potential. Dr. Marcus Wong's memories of the collective added sharp edges of fear and determination. Lieutenant Volkov's rewired neural pathways generated beautiful, unpredictable disruptions. Neural patterns are destabilizing, one of the technicians reported. Should we abort? No, Arya commanded, her voice steady despite the mental maelstrom. We need to learn to function in chaos. The collective will try to impose order, we need to be stronger than that urge. Slowly, painfully, the 7 minds began to find harmony in discord. They didn't merge into a single consciousness, that would have been too ordered, too perfect. Instead, they learned to exist as 7 distinct chaos patterns that somehow worked in concert. The next 3 weeks were spent learning to control their combined quantum influence. Each crew member discovered unique abilities when connected to the quantum field. The Rodriguez twins could generate massive disruption waves by deliberately desynchronizing their usually harmonious thoughts. Dr. Wong found he could predict the collective's probable actions by analyzing quantum probability patterns. Lieutenant Volkov's irregular neural pathways proved excellent at disrupting crystalline information structures. But the process took its toll. After each session, they emerged changed. Captain Chen started seeing quantum probabilities overlaid on reality, making simple decisions complex as he perceived countless possible outcomes. Dr. Blackwood found her memories becoming quantum entangled, experiencing multiple versions of past events simultaneously. The Rodriguez twins began completing each other's thoughts even when not neural linked. Their consciousness patterns are evolving, Dr. Tanaka reported to Admiral Takeshi. The quantum exposure is changing them at a fundamental level. They're becoming something new. The Admiral watched through reinforced windows as the crew trained. Are they still human? Yes, she answered firmly. But they're pushing the boundaries of what human consciousness can become. The very chaos that makes us unsuitable for harvesting is being amplified in ways we never imagined possible. 2 months before the collective's predicted return, they began testing the Icarus itself. The ship's quantum core responded to their combined consciousness like a living thing. Its disruption fields, powered by their chaotic thought patterns, could tear apart crystalline structures at a molecular level. During one test, Arya made a discovery that changed their understanding of the coming battle. While connected to the quantum core, she perceived echoes of other consciousness patterns, fragments of minds harvested by the collective, still maintaining traces of individuality despite the imposed perfection. They're still in there, she reported during the emergency briefing. All the civilizations the collective has harvested, pieces of their original consciousness survive in the quantum substrate. They're trapped, but not completely destroyed. This revelation added a new dimension to their mission. They weren't just fighting to protect humanity, they were fighting to free countless imprisoned minds. But it also raised the stakes. If they failed, their consciousness wouldn't simply be destroyed, but eternally imprisoned in crystalline perfection. As the final weeks of preparation began, the crew of the Icarus spent more time connected than separate. They learned to navigate the quantum realm between normal space and crystalline perfection. They practiced generating chaos fields strong enough to shatter crystalline matrices without fragmenting their own minds. The changes to their consciousness became more pronounced. They developed a form of quantum communication that transcended normal spacetime. Their dreams began to intersect, creating shared mindscapes where they could continue training even while asleep. Their very thoughts became weapons, capable of disrupting the ordered patterns the collective relied upon. 1 week before the collective's predicted arrival, Admiral Takeshi visited them one final time. He found them in the neural synchronization chamber, their minds linked, their consciousness spread across quantum states most humans couldn't even perceive. "Are you ready?" he asked, knowing they could sense his presence even before he spoke. 7 voices answered as one, yet each distinct. "We're ready to show the collective that chaos isn't a flaw to be corrected, it's the source of our strength." As humanity's first line of defense against crystalline perfection, they had become something unprecedented, a weapon forged from the very chaos the enemy sought to purify. The question wasn't just whether they could defeat the collective, but whether humanity was ready for what they might become in the process. The Icarus waited in its quantum dock, its neural interface chambers humming with potential. Soon, it would carry 7 evolved human minds into battle against an enemy that had spent eons harvesting consciousness across the galaxy. The age of crystalline perfection was about to meet its match in human chaos. The collective arrived exactly as predicted, their crystalline ships materializing in perfect geometric patterns around Earth's orbital defense network. But this time, humanity was ready. The Icarus hung in low Earth orbit, its quantum core pulsing with the combined consciousness of its 7 crew members. Through their enhanced perception, they could see the beautiful, terrible perfection of the collective's ships, massive crystalline structures that existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum states beyond human comprehension. Multiple harvest signatures detected, Lieutenant Volkov reported, her consciousness spread through the ship sensor arrays. They're preparing for a full-scale consciousness extraction. Commander Arya Patel felt the collective scan wash over Earth like a wave of crystalline ice. But unlike their first encounter, this time the scan carried something else, recognition. The collective remembered human consciousness, and they had come prepared. "They've adapted their harvest beams," Dr. Wong announced, reading quantum probabilities like text. "The crystalline matrices are designed to contain and purify even chaotic consciousness patterns." The Rodriguez twins, their minds synchronized through quantum entanglement, detected the first attack forming. multiple harvest formations assembling. They're targeting major population centers. Through their neural links, the crew felt Earth's defense networks activate, conventional weapons that they knew would be useless against an enemy that existed partially outside normal spacetime. This battle would be fought on the quantum level, consciousness against consciousness. Remember your training, Captain Chen's thoughts resonated through their shared quantum field. Don't try to match their order. Embrace the chaos. The collective struck first. Harvest beams lanced down toward Earth, their crystalline perfection designed to rip consciousness from physical forms and store it in purified states. But before they could reach the planet's surface, they met the Icarus's chaos field. 7 human minds, evolved beyond normal consciousness yet still gloriously imperfect, projected their combined chaos into the quantum realm. Where their field met the harvest beams, reality itself seemed to shudder. The collective recoiled, their perfect patterns disrupted by consciousness they couldn't process. But they were ancient and powerful, and they had harvested countless civilizations. Their ships shifted formation, adapting, trying to find patterns that could contain human chaos. Inside the Icarus, the crew fought on levels of reality few humans had ever experienced. Dr. Blackwood's consciousness wound through quantum states, disrupting the collective's information patterns. Lieutenant Volkov's irregular neural pathways generated interference that corrupted crystalline matrices. The Rodriguez twins created quantum feedback loops that shattered perfect symmetry. But the collective was learning, adapting. A crystalline tendril pierced the chaos field, touching Captain Chen's consciousness. For a moment, he experienced the seductive pull of perfect order, an existence free from uncertainty, doubt, and chaos. Tom. Aria's consciousness reached for his, anchoring him in his humanity. Show them why we choose chaos. Chen's mind snapped back, and he turned the attempted harvest against them. His strategic consciousness, enhanced by quantum exposure, identified patterns in the collective's defenses. Their crystalline structures are weakest and attempting to process multiple chaos patterns simultaneously. The crew adjusted their attack. Instead of trying to match the collective's power, they began generating deliberately contradictory thought patterns. 7 different types of chaos, each designed to disrupt crystalline perfection in unique ways. The collective's harvest beams began to fracture. Where they touched the Icarus's chaos field, perfect crystalline structures developed flaws, imperfections that spread like cracks through quantum space. But victory came with a price. The strain of projecting consciousness as a weapon took its toll. The crew's minds began to show signs of quantum destabilization. Their thoughts started bleeding into each other, individual identities threatening to dissolve in the chaotic maelstrom they had created. Neural patterns critical, Dr. Wong reported, his thoughts fragmenting. We can't maintain this level of chaos projection much longer. Through their quantum perception, they sensed the collective's response, not in words, but in concepts that burn through their evolved consciousness. Anomaly threatens perfection. Increase harvest power. Purify all chaos. The crystalline ships began to pulse with impossible energy. They were drawing on the consciousness of every mind they had ever harvested, turning eons of purified thought into a weapon. As the collective prepared their final attack, the crew of the Icarus made a desperate discovery. In the quantum noise between reality and crystalline perfection, they heard echoes, countless minds trapped in perfect stasis, their original chaos suppressed but not entirely eliminated. We can wake them, Aria realized, her consciousness touching the quantum prison. Every mind they've harvested, the chaos is still there, just waiting to be released. It was their last chance, but it would require pushing their evolved consciousness beyond its limits. They would have to reach into the collective's crystalline matrices and touch every imprisoned mind, reawakening the chaos that made each consciousness unique. As the collective's final harvest beam prepared to fire, 7 human minds reached into quantum infinity, ready to remind the galaxy why chaos was not a flaw to be corrected, but the very essence of consciousness itself. As the collective's final harvest beam built to critical power, the 7 minds aboard the Icarus reached through quantum space into the crystalline matrices that held countless imprisoned consciousnesses. What they found there changed everything. The imprisoned minds weren't truly perfected, they were frozen, their chaos suppressed but not eliminated. Like seeds waiting for spring, they needed only a touch of chaos to reawaken. Now, Aria's command resonated through quantum space as the crew initiated their desperate gambit. Their evolved consciousness, pushed beyond normal human limits, touched the first imprisoned mind. Then another. And another. Like a quantum cascade, chaos began to spread through the collective's perfect crystalline prison. Dr. Wong's consciousness tracked the quantum probabilities as they shifted. The crystalline structures, they're destabilizing from within. The Rodriguez twins synchronized their chaos patterns, creating quantum pathways through which imprisoned minds could reassert their individuality. Lieutenant Volkov's irregular neural patterns showed these awakening consciousnesses how to break free of ordered patterns. Dr. Blackwood's theoretical understanding helped guide minds back to their natural chaotic states. Inside the collective's ships, perfection began to crack. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of minds began to remember what it meant to be imperfect. The collective's crystalline matrices, designed to contain imperfect consciousness, now faced an enemy they couldn't purify, awakened chaos on a massive scale. But the strain on the Icarus's crew was catastrophic. Their consciousness, spread across quantum states, began to fragment. Captain Chen's strategic mind started losing cohesion as he coordinated the awakening minds. The Rodriguez twins' synchronization wavered, threatening to collapse the quantum pathways they'd created. Neural patterns approaching critical failure, Dr. Wong warned, his own thoughts beginning to scatter across quantum states. The collective, sensing the threat to their perfect order, launched their final attack. The harvest beam, powered by eons of purified consciousness, struck the Icarus directly. For a moment that stretched across quantum infinity, 7 human minds faced the full power of crystalline perfection. They felt the seductive pull of order, the promise of existence without doubt or uncertainty or pain. But in that moment, they also felt something else, the rising tide of chaos as imprisoned minds continued to awaken. Each consciousness that broke free added its own unique disorder to the quantum realm, creating a symphony of beautiful imperfection. Aria, her consciousness stretched to its absolute limit, made one final discovery. The collective wasn't truly a separate entity, it was the first harvested consciousness, driven mad by enforced perfection, endlessly seeking to impose that same perfection on others. Show them, she commanded, her thoughts reaching every awakened mind. Show them what consciousness is meant to be. In a moment that rippled across space-time, every freed consciousness projected its own unique chaos. Not in attack, but in celebration of imperfection. Of evolution. Of the beautiful disorder that makes consciousness itself possible. The collective's crystalline ships began to transform. As more minds awoke, the perfect geometric patterns became organic, flowing, alive with possibility rather than frozen in perfection. The harvest beam attacking the Icarus flickered and died as the consciousness powering it remembered how to embrace chaos. Throughout the collective's fleet, crystalline perfection gave way to something new, structures that could contain consciousness without suppressing its essential nature. The 7 crew members of the Icarus, their minds forever changed by evolved consciousness, felt the transformation ripple across the galaxy. Every crystalline ship, every harvested mind, every perfect pattern built over eons of forced order, all of it transforming as consciousness remembered how to be free. When it was over, Earth sensors detected something unprecedented. The crystalline ships remained, but they had become something organic, geometric patterns flowing like liquid crystal, beautiful in their imperfection. The first message from the transformed collective came not in words or burned concepts, but in a quantum pattern that celebrated chaos while maintaining harmony. We remember. We are free. We are perfect in our imperfection. The crew of the Icarus, their consciousness permanently altered by their evolution and battle, became humanity's first ambassadors to a galaxy awakening from an age of enforced perfection. Their mission changed from defense to guidance, helping both humanity and freed civilizations navigate the new quantum awareness they had gained. The age of crystalline perfection was over. The age of conscious evolution had begun. In the quantum realm between order and chaos, humanity had proven that their greatest perceived flaw, their chaotic, unpredictable consciousness, was actually their greatest strength. They had shown the galaxy that true perfection lies not in the elimination of chaos, but in the harmony that can exist between order and disorder. The Icarus, its quantum core still humming with evolved consciousness, became a symbol of this new understanding. 7 human minds had faced the perfect order of the cosmos and showed it a better way, not through conquest or dominance, but by awakening the beautiful chaos that existed in every conscious mind. The crystal crown of enforced perfection had been broken, and in its place grew something far more precious: freedom to be perfectly imperfect.